What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, taking a look at Stokastic's MLB DFS lineup generator for tonight's slate. It's just a 4-game slate here tonight on DraftKings. I'm going to be taking a look at lineups for both DraftKings and FanDuel here. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Of course, you can still get the lineup generator for 50% off your first week. It's going to be just $4.48 for your first week if you use the link in the description of this video. It'll still be just $8.95 after that for a fantastic tool that only gives you plus EV lineups. These have been run through the Stokastic Sims, and the Stokastic Sims have found all of these lineups to be long-term profitable lineups. So cool tool. And, even if you don't want to use the lineups that come out of it, a really good studying tool to see just what good lineups look like. Check it out if you haven't already. I'm going to start by checking out some DraftKings lineups here. I'm going to do, and these are the exact settings that I used on Wednesday to get third in a contest of just under 12,000 people. I literally just used the first 20 lineups that came out. I did all stack types, all lineups. So you're going to get a mix if you do all lineups of chalky, balanced, and contrarian lineups. And then I'm not going to lock anybody in, just get what it gives me. All right, the first lineup that we see here is a full Coors stack. We got 4-4 Rockies and Angels in this one. And then we've got Bobby Miller and Pablo Lopez. So very, very chalky. Not very often you're going to see a lineup with 281% total ownership, but it's a 4-game slate, and we have 2 offenses in Coors here. So makes sense that we're going to get some chalkier lineups here. Nobody really bringing down the ownership much. We got Jurickson Profar at 17%, Mike Moustakas at just 13%. Kind of interesting. So a couple of the bats that are a little bit lower owned, but it's a 4-game slate, so you're not going to get too many bats that are going to be 3-4% owned who are actually projecting well. So yeah, high ownership, as you can see here. It's on the far chalky end of the spectrum here, but again, every single lineup here has been found to be plus EV. So even though this one has really high ownership, clearly it also has pretty good odds of doing well. Let's check out how the Angels and Rockies stack up in the top stacks tool. No surprise, they are the top 2 teams in the top stack tool. Again, there's only 8 offenses on the slate. We have 35% chance of the Angels being the top stack, 17% chance of the Rockies being the top stack. We actually have some positive leverage on the Angels here at just 23% ownership with a 35% chance of being the top stack. Colorado, slight negative leverage, but then positive leverage from a top value perspective. So this is going to look like a pretty good lineup. And then the pitchers here, we got Bobby Miller and Pablo Lopez. Top 2 pitchers. So we're using the top 2 stacks and the top 2 pitchers in our tools. 48% chance of Pablo Lopez being a top 2 pitcher, 41% chance of Bobby Miller being a top 2 pitcher. A little bit of negative leverage there, but again, kind of willing to eat the chalk at pitcher a lot of the time. So overall, this is you're going to have to eat some chalk here. It's a 4-game slate. Nobody's going to be all that low owned. But let's see if we're going to find any lineups here that don't have a ton of Rockies or Angels. Second lineup, same thing. Now it's a 5-3 Angels Rockies stack. Still Pablo Lopez. Now this one, Ronald Blanco bringing down the ownership a little bit at just 15% ownership. Now this one, 4% lower ownership overall. So the bat's actually a little bit chalkier overall, but then Blanco bringing down the total ownership of the lineup. Let's see where Blanco is in the top pitchers tool. Yeah, so he's 4th on the board. We only have 7 pitchers on the slate because the San Diego pitcher not in the player pool. Blanco looking like we've got some positive leverage here. So I kind of like that. It's obviously a tough matchup with the Dodgers. It's scary, but you got to take some risks on a slate of this size if you're trying to get different. Actually have some nice positive. 18% ownership, 30% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 43% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. All right, I'm just going to go through and save 20 lineups. All right, here's one that doesn't have the Rockies. Actually, we got a 4-4 Angels and Twins stack. So this one still pretty high ownership, but lower than the last 2 were. All right, I'm going to keep going through any. Do we see any that are not Angels stacks? Here we go. We got one that is not an Angel stack. We still get Shohei Ohtani in there. All right, we got 3 Angels there. So yeah, a lot of Angel stacks looking good here. Not a surprise. They have really high odds of being the top stack on the board and actually not getting as much ownership as we think that they should. So Angels looking good here. Now here's our exposure for the 20 lineups that I just chose. Luis Rengifo is our highest exposed player, 65% Rengifo, 65%. Actually, 4 of them are tied. Rengifo, Ryan McMahon, Ronald Blanco, and Shohei Ohtani, each getting 65% ownership in these 20 lineups. As you can see, we're getting a ton of, towards the top, a lot of these Coors bats, both Angels and Rockies in several places here. So I might be okay with that on a 3-game slate. I mean, normally if I see 65% exposure, I might try and lower that a little bit, go get rid of some of those lineups. But on a 4-game slate, it's really not the end of the world to be more concentrated, especially when you do have such a great spot as we have for the Angels here with the positive leverage at 35% chance to be in the top stack. That's hard not to love that for the Angels here. All right, let's take a look at some FanDuel lineups as well. Again, I'm going to do all stack types, all lineups, not going to lock anybody in. All right, so the FanDuel main slate, let's take a look at what that looks like. Yeah, so the FanDuel main slate is the earlier one, and we're getting a lot more options here. We do not have the Coors, so this is going to look completely different what we're getting to on FanDuel. All right, so the first lineup we're seeing here, we have Max Scherzer at pitcher. Max Scherzer 4th overall in top pitcher odds on FanDuel with a 7.1% chance. A little bit of negative leverage, but again, don't care about that as much with the pitchers. And then the bats, we have a Reds and Braves 4-4 stack here on FanDuel. They are the top 2 in terms of top stack odds. So we got the Braves with a 19% chance to be in the top stack, Reds with a 10% chance to be the top stack. A little bit of negative leverage, but not a crazy amount. Let's see what the bats, if we have any individual bats bringing down the exposure. Yeah, TJ Friel at 2.3% brings down the ownership a little bit of this lineup. Eddie Rosario 9%. So it's a fairly chalky lineup, but not too crazy. And then Scherzer is just 13% owned. So a little bit of chalk, but like not overwhelming chalk here. All right, I'm going to save that one. Similar here, we got a 4-2-2. So we still have a 4-man Brave stack. Now we just have 2 Reds, and then we have 2 Rays in there. Still fairly high ownership on all of these plays. Randy Arozarena at just 8% in the 4-hole. Looks pretty good there. Darno at 10% again. And then we've got Lance Lynn at 21% ownership. He is our second pitcher on the board in terms of top pitcher odds at 7%. Where are the Rays here? We have the Rays 5th overall in top stack odds, 6.5% chance to be in the top stack. So again, pretty high ownership, but looks like a nice lineup overall. I'll save that one. I'm just going to go through until I see a lineup where this jumps somewhere in the middle, maybe a little bit closer to the contrarian side. All right, here we go. Here's one that is not getting such crazy high ownership. So we have a 4-3 Mets and Red stack with George Springer as a one-off. Jose Barrios, 21% ownership. Francisco Alvarez bringing down the ownership a bit at just 2% ownership overall. Pete Alonso, 9%, not too crazy there. Nimmo at 10%, nothing too high. Senzel, 10%. So, we've got a number of bats that are not extremely contrarian, but also not very chalky. These 10% bats. And then obviously Alvarez, pretty contrarian there. So looks a little bit better overall. 120% total ownership here. Where's Barrios in the top pitcher? Barrios is 6th overall in terms of top pitcher odds. Pretty chalky, but the price is not bad there at 9,200. Still pretty high top pitcher odds. All right, I'm going to save this one. All right, so after going through 20 lineups, we have 70% exposure to Michael Harris, 60% to Austin Riley, 55% Ozzie Albies, 55% Ronald Acuna. Tons of Braves here, tons of Reds. I think if I saw this exposure, if I went through, I would probably go even it out a little bit by finding some contrarian lineups. So I would probably go back, I'd get rid of some of my Michael Harris lineups. Ideally, Harris and Riley. Get rid of some of those. All right, let's get rid of one more. And then to bring down the exposures on Michael Harris and Austin Riley a little bit, I would go back to all stack types once again, but then I would do only contrarian lineups. Not going to lock anybody in. All right, so the first one we see still has Riley. So I'm going to discard. I'm going to try and find one that does not have either. This one has Ronald Acuna, but neither of the others, so I'll save that. All right, this one does have Riley. I want to find some lines with no Harris and no Riley. Here's another one. All right, so now brought down the exposure a little bit to Michael Harris and Riley by finding some other stack types out there with different teams. So I'd feel more comfortable with that, 55%, lowering it a little bit. Again, on FanDuel, because the slate is larger, I'm more inclined to spread it out a little bit more rather than having like a ton of concentration on one stack. But, getting closer to, this might be okay. If I'm just playing 20 lineups, I don't mind being fairly concentrated when I'm only playing 20 lineups. It's really, if I'm playing 150 when I want to really spread out my exposure a little bit more just to mitigate some of that risk. But in 20 lineups, this is probably fine. Probably don't mind having a little bit more concentration on the Braves and Reds here. And actually the Blue Jays now, after finding those new lineups, Blue Jays popping up a little bit more too. So, at least spreading it out to 3-4 teams here. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Again, you can get Lineup Generator for 50% off if you use the link in the description of this video, or if you're seeing this on Twitter, you can also find it in the tweet. Right here in the tweet, I'm going to post the link where you can get this for 50% off. Again, it's only going to be plus EV lineups now, so check it out and like the video if you haven't already. Good luck today.